Contact letting you know the city ordinance, the possible outcome if you guys continue with your action and continue to get complaints. Okay?
That will what? If we continue to use amplification.
If you just continue to do magnification and disturb somebody else's peace, right? If one of the businesses calls and they want to be a victim and they want to pursue some sort of charge, then there might be a possibility of doing that.
Well,
We're
can I make a
specifically
call
just
and
talking
say it's
about
disturbing
the
my peace?
magnification of the
They're murdering children down at
device,
Planned Parenthood.
right? So when somebody calls in, if they say something happened or this is what they're complaining about, and if it meets an element of a crime and they want to be a victim, then there's a possibility we might either issue citations
Sir,
or
it
file
disturbs
a
my
report.
peace. They're murdering children right down
So
the
have
street
ambiguity.
at Planned Parenthood.
There are
Very
specific
That
ambiguous.
actually
tags.
is a crime.
If you guys want, you can go on the City of Meridian website
Really
and
ambiguous.
go under the city codes, and they'll give you the specifics exactly of what the definition of that code is.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
What was your name, sir?
Jeff.
Good to meet you, Jeff, okay?
Yep. Yeah.
Try to stay warm out here, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, he gave a pretty. If it meets the definition of a crime, and if they want to be a victim, then they'll detain us.
Be a victim. And legally, you can't take free speech and try to contort it to say that it's disturbing speech.
That's really stupid.
A federal violation.
Well, hey, we had agitation accomplished today. So praise God for that. Hallelujah. Yeah, we can certainly reach people with the gospel of Jesus. No matter where we're at. Yeah, abortion is a hate crime. The Bible tells us to lift up our voice like a trumpet. The Bible tells us to preach the gospel to every creature.
That was an opinion. The court doesn't make laws. The Constitution of the United States and the 5th and the 14th Amendment guarantees the right to life. You can't deprive somebody of life without due process of law. You guys know that, right? Sure. Okay? And so that applies to all humans. But the Supreme Court says, hey, we found down there in the little nooks and crannies, the right to murder children. Dictate that all 50 states have to abide by that. So the pro-life movement said, well, the court made this ruling, so we have to abide by it. So let's see if we can chip away at that. Let's say that humans are valuable after they're viable. Which, by the way, your 2-year-old isn't viable, because if you don't feed them, they're going to die. And provide shelter and clothing for them. So then people say, well, babies can feel pain at 20 weeks, and so we're actually tearing arms and legs off babies and crushing their skulls, and they're actually feeling the pain. It's a fact. But that is not why abortion is wrong, because babies feel pain, because really early on, they don't feel pain because it's not developed enough yet. And then they said, well, maybe we'll go at heartbeat because if you can detect the heartbeat, then that's an important milestone. And so the pro-life movement now has got these heartbeat bills that they're trying to pass all over the country. That's ageism. That's just like racism. That's like treating humans more or less valuable based on their age instead of their race. It's just as horrible. God says in James chapter 2, that He doesn't want us to be partial, no partiality. You know, you're not more valuable than I am. I'm not more valuable than you. We're human beings. We're all created in God's image. We all have value because of it. And so the pro-life movement has been trying to chip away, and then what happens is they say, we got this heartbeat bill, and it passes, and they're all excited, and they're like, vote for us, vote for me, I'm pro-life, donate to my campaign, give to my organization, give your money. And they're making millions of dollars every year, and then what happens when that bill goes to the courts? The court says, no, you can't do that because of Roe v. Wade. And the state says, oh, okay, we tried, but thanks for your contributions. Right. And your votes.
Right. So we're going to talk to them, educate them.
So we say no compromise with abortion, no tranquility with child sacrifice. I mean, you know how one of our signs, we don't have it here, but how in the Old Testament and in earlier millennium they used to sacrifice children. The Aztec born babies when they would sacrifice them.
Would you like a gospel check, sir? Says no one's good, no, not one. All have sinned, fallen short of the glory of God.
As an offering to that God. They did this stuff. There's proof that they did that. That's child sacrifice. What we're doing is the same thing. We're offering babies as sacrifices to God Himself. Convenience. Go ask these ladies that are going to get abortions and Planned Parenthood why they're doing it. It's like, I can't afford a baby right now. I'm in college. I don't want to have to drop out of college. I've already got 3 children. I don't need any more children. It's all selfish, sinful reasons that they're doing it. And so we're not involved. So are you a believer? So
Tell me about James 2 because we're studying James right now. We're only chapter 1.
All right.
So what happens in James chapter 2?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, about partiality. If someone comes into your church and they're dressed really nicely and they look really wealthy, are you going to say, come on, sit up front? Right? Sit up in the best seat here, right? If somebody comes in, dressed all shabby and stuff, are you going to say, why don't you just sit in the back right there? That's what we're doing with these smaller human beings, not valuing them as we should. And I used to think that it was a good idea to try to regulate this and to have white bills that would chip away, call it baby steps. Take baby steps, people say, well, you can't eat an elephant all at once, you got to eat it one bite at a time, right?
Yeah.
But we're not talking about eating elephants. We're talking about murdering. Right now, in Idaho, today, there's going to be 7 babies murdered. And we have the ability to write legislation and get it passed, and the governor sign it, and then you guys can enforce it. And that's what this is about. That's what this bill is about. Notice it talks about the legislative intent to protect law enforcement officers.
Amen.
Okay?
Yep.
From being directed through federal executive orders, statutes, laws, rules, or court opinions, that would be Roe v. Wade, to violate your oath of office. Do you know that you gave an oath of office that you would protect and defend the
Hippocratic
Constitution of the United States? And that Constitution guarantees the right to life for every human being. And the Supreme Court saying you can't enforce that. You really should, if things were right and they were right side up, you really should go over there and shut that place down and tell them you're not going to murder any more children. And And if they do, we should prosecute them for that. That's what should be happening. But, things are not right. So it talks about did you know that there's a guy up in Priest River? Did you ever hear about the guy up there? Jeremy, I can't remember his last name. He was upset at his wife, so he went into a hardware store in Priest. You know what Priest River is?
I don't know what Priest River is. I don't think I've heard this before.
Yeah, just a few years ago. He went into a hardware store and bought an ice pick, and then he went home and he argued with his wife, and he grabbed a knife from the kitchen and he ice picked her and stabbed her like 35 times, and she was pregnant. He's in prison right now for double homicide. He killed 2 human beings. And that's Idaho law. That's already in the law. It says that from fertilization, that's a human being. That's great. This happened after Scott Peterson. Remember Scott Peterson killed his pregnant wife Lacey in California, I think. And his little boy, I think his name was Connor. And he went to prison for doing that. So all across the country they said, we need to have laws like this. So more than half the states have what they call fetal homicide laws. And it clearly defines all this. Yes, clearly defines all this. Then it goes on to say, this stuff here doesn't apply if you're the mother and you feel like murdering your child, or if you're a doctor who helps her. Now, it's not those exact words, but that's what it says. That's what it says in Idaho. That's what it says in Alaska, where I just moved down from a year ago. That's what it says in Texas, where they're working on a bill to abolish abortion. That's what it says in Oklahoma, where they're working on a bill. It says that already, that if you murder a pregnant woman, that's double homicide. But if you're the mother and you feel like killing your own child, then it's okay. Go ahead and go for it. That's what the law says. So this bill takes that last section out, and what it does is that at that point, then the murder of a preborn human is treated the same as the murder of a born human.
Murder and murder.
Right.
Either way.
This way.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Just so I can understand what I think you're getting at. It sounds like what you're saying. The only difference between a baby who is not born yet, is murdered, and the difference between a baby who is aborted and it's not murdered is if the baby's born to you.
Well, that's generally why a woman kills her child, is because she doesn't want that child to continue to grow and develop and be born. So that would be unwantedness. But yeah, basically, the law gives a pass to a woman to kill her child for any reason. I just said basically she decides to do it, and that's all it is. She just decides, I want to kill my child, and there's places all over this country. There could be 4,000 humans murdered today in America. It isn't human beings.
Surgical abortion.
A million a year, and it's been going on for 40 years.
40 years.
46 years. Since 1973. We're just blind to it. It happened in buildings that look like doctor's offices. Sometimes they give pills, and the pill causes the baby the lining of the uterus to not support the life, and the baby dies, and then they give another pill, and it causes contractions and pushes the baby out. And they do that up to 10, 12 weeks or higher. And the mothers deliver their babies into feminine napkins or into the toilet at home. And they suck them through a tube, they reach in there with instruments, and they pull their arms and legs off, and then they have to crush their skull because it's too big to suck through the tube, so they crush their skull, and then they suck all that stuff up into a jar of bloody pulp.
And it's getting worse. We're sinking to lower levels of depravity. This young lady, I forget which state she lived in, but she gave birth to her baby and then buried her baby in her backyard, and she wasn't convicted of murder. And her parents were comforting her in her sin.
I read that just the other day.
She was
that decision just
That
came
just
out.
happened.
It's like
Yeah.
last week or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so that was that's horrible. And so it you can only imagine it's gonna get worse than that. It's gonna get worse, and parents, they're gonna be evil parents who are continuing to comfort their children in their sin. I mean, this woman was obviously promiscuous and also murderous of her human being, of her child, and it's horrible.
Yeah. We go to high schools, stand on the sidewalk outside of high schools. We were at, what was the name of that, Timberline?
If you were at Timberline,
Yeah. In fact, at Timberline, we passed these out. These we designed, it's called Project Frontline. I'll give you one of those. Because the abortion facility, we call it Child Sacrifice Center, we call that the final line. Because that's the last minute they're walking in and then they're killing their baby. We want to get them before that. That's not when we're going to stop this. We want to